Next, I would like to call on Ms. Tatiana Lopez to please address us with regards to the role of natural gas in tackling energy access challenges in the energy transition era in the case of Mozambique.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to be part of this interesting conference. Let me see if I can share my screen. So basically, my presentation today, I think it fits very well after the Dr. Vitoria's presentation, because it's more like an envisioning or a visioning exercise about the Mozambican case that we started at Mozambique Women of Energy, and that I would like very much to share with my colleague panelists and also with all the participants in this conference. And it's also a visioning exercise for all of us Africans and the role that our laws can play in this interesting debate about energy transition, and now with this new concept that was brought by Dr. Vitória, energy progression. So we all know the links between the challenge of access to energy, and sustainable development, and in Africa with the emphasis on energy poverty and also gender equality. And as a peripheral case, like an opposite of the central countries, Mozambique deals with a different reality that's actually energy poverty, with very low electrification ratios, around 30%, with major incidents in rural areas. It makes very difficult to balance energy security and environmental sustainability and access. Mozambique also presents a very low energy management performance in terms of the index, actually occupies one of the 6 last positions, and it has enormous resources like biomass, natural gas. We actually have 3 TCFs of natural gas in the Rovuma Basin, coal, hydropower, wind and solar. We have a relatively weak national grids in terms of electricity that also depends on the extraction and availability of fossil fuels. But on the other hand, we have an enormous potential in terms of renewable energy that could be used to diminish the differences between access to energy and inequalities. So what are an effective operation of energy transition in Mozambique depends on several factors that range from geopoliticals, the economic position in relation to the management of its natural resources, its greater or less dependence on them, but also the philosophical and cultural concept of justice and gender relations. And what Dr. Vitória mentioned that it's very important is that when we talk about the management of governance energy systems, we have to think what comes first. And in Africa, it's access. In Mozambique, it's access. And we should recognize that universal access to energy should be recognized as a fundamental right to sustainable social and economic development based on equality and also a realization of the ideal of justice. Our 5-year government program that was very recently approved highlight some of these principles on government decisions and contributions and their targets. So our government committed to increase access by 64% in 2024. And for this is counting with the increased contribution from renewable energies, but also the promote projects for the construction of energy infrastructures. And here, natural gas plays a very important role. First, because we have to ensure the implementation of the first LNG units that we are starting to develop in the Rovuma Basin, 3 of which will be located on shore and an additional one, a floating LNG plant. And we are also looking to increase the availability of energy by 1,600 megawatts by promoting public and private new generation infrastructure through natural gas, and also with the conclusion of some renewable projects, but again, through the implementation of big infrastructure projects that will be like the projects for the construction of renewable infrastructures that will promote access on the other way. So the construction of the first kilometers of the backbone that will connect the north to the south of Mozambique and actually will interconnect with South Africa and the Southern African region, and build the Malawi interconnector. So, in respect to our gas framework, how is the natural gas regulated in Mozambique? We have a gas master plan that was approved in 2012-2014, and a petroleum regulatory framework that relates to gas that was developed in 2014 as well, and that focus also on the share of gas that is going to be used for domestic consumption. However, both the gas master plan and also the legal regulatory framework were approved in a completely different time from the time that we are living nowadays. And some of these policies will have to be reviewed. And at the same time, and based on our recent 5-year government plan, we have to focus on building energy infrastructures and we have to rely on gas. So what should we do? Well, the way forward on the sustainable energy transition, shall I call it progression, as Dr. Victoria mentioned, in Mozambique, should focus on additional policies and strategies and start by reviewing, for example, the gas master plan, but also legislative and institutional efforts to develop more secure and transparent planning instruments to allow for a secure investment from the private sector, but that will also encourage communities to be part of it, and interinstitutional coordination between sectors to create a market, a domestic market for the gas, but also to create a market for other sectors of activity that we use energy. On the regional context, also at the continental level, but I think we should start at the regional context to promote greater regional energy cooperation and integration. But in this integration and having in mind this regional integration and cooperation, we should act together as an ecosystem. We have to put our country's political wills a little bit on the side and think that we have to foster energy. And we can start by developing and implementing a regional gas master plan, for example, with the support of development partners and with the regulators. So the vision is that law plays a fundamental role and must ensure achieving equal access to energy and sustainable energy systems as a matter of justice for all. And this will be a means to fight poverty. So when our policymakers think about energy transition, they have to think first that we have some poverty issues to tackle first, and have our dear President Mandela said, with poverty, we will not be free.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Lopez. You painted a very clear picture of the landscape in Mozambique, and it was very sharp and concise.